Yesterday, I threw a post up on my Instagram story asking you all what questions you had for me, so I can answer them in this Q&A video today. And so I got a lot of responses. Definitely not going to get to all of them, but I will get through as many of them as I can before I get tired of talking. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, then be sure to follow me over there at Trevor Carroll so that you can participate in one of these Q&As next time I do it. I always love doing these. I think it's fun to see what specific questions people have and that viewers of my content have, and so that I can answer them authentically without any sort of prep, just what comes to my mind first. I don't know, it's kind of fun for me. And so I hope that you enjoy this video as well. With that said, I'm just going to go through them. Let's get started. So the first one is, how do you make lifelong friends when struggling with social skills due to autism? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for this one. There aren't many people in my life who I'd consider a friend. For me, it's always been really hard to make friends and to relate to people, and just the amount of effort and just skill that I feel friendships require. It's too much for me, especially at this point in my life. And so I wish I had an answer for that, but I don't. I don't have many answers when it comes to friendships and things like that. Any tips for an autistic person who wants to speak up more and share their experiences? Yeah, so I feel for me, it's been a little different because I was creating content for a long time before that I knew that I was on the autism spectrum. And so it felt like I almost had a duty and had a responsibility to share what was going on with me, especially because a lot of my content centered around mental health and things like that. And since learning about my autism and receiving my autism diagnosis, it helped explain a lot of those things that I was already sharing about. So I feel for me, it was just kind of natural to start sharing about my autism online. But it does still to this day feel really vulnerable and sometimes really uncomfortable, especially when sharing those more challenging aspects of my autistic experience. And so I think the first tip I have would to be just share what you're comfortable with, and understand that I guess start to understand what your intention would be behind sharing. Is it to try to help other people who might be in the same boat as you? Is it to create more inclusion in this world and more empathy in this world? And just kind of let the intention lead with that, but definitely only share what you're comfortable with, and start sharing with who you're comfortable with first. Even in my life, I don't always talk about my autism in my day-to-day life, just because I might not feel as comfortable sharing about it with certain people. So just kind of figuring out who you're comfortable sharing it with and only sharing what you're comfortable. And that's okay. And I feel at first it is going to be weird and it's going to feel really vulnerable, but hopefully as time passes and as you get more comfortable and confident in your own experiences, it might get a little bit easier. But yeah, I think it is important for autistic people to share about their experiences, because I feel for the most part, autism has really just been looked at from the outside in, from an outsider's perspective of people who might be observing autistic behaviors, or who might have autistic family members, and their perspectives definitely matter. But our perspectives as autistic people definitely matter too, and I feel we need more of that in the entire autism space. And so yeah. Ways you found to communicate your needs to your partner. Yeah, I love this. So, for us, we've we found that like the best way for us to communicate is just like very clearly and making sure that the other person understands that this isn't about you. This is literally just like me, and like what I need as an accommodation, or what I need, like for my autism specifically. And that's been really helpful to like remember like not to take things personally, and just like really listening and seeking to understand. And then also, during those times where it is like more challenging for us to like verbally communicate, like if one of us is having a shutdown, or if we just had like a really hard day, being okay with like communicating like over text message or in written form has also been really helpful. Like we could say something like, oh, we call it like a headphone night. Like we just put on our headphones, and sometimes we'll like be in each other's like physical presence, but when it comes to like verbal communication, we kind of avoid that for the night, just to kind of help ourselves get more regulated, especially if it was a challenging day. So just like very clear communication in what we need, and remembering that it's nothing personal. Like this is literally just what I need. And I think that throughout our relationship, having those understandings has been really helpful, because I can like think back to like before I was diagnosed, and like I didn't have like the words and language to explain like what I needed, because I didn't know what I needed at the time. But then since receiving my autism diagnosis, it's been really helpful in figuring out like the exact like words that I need to describe what I need and describe like what's going on with me. Has anyone treated you different after they found out you're autistic? Uh, not not really in my life. Like I said, I don't have a lot of like friends. When it comes to like family members and stuff, like they were all like, I'm thankful. I know a lot of people don't have this experience, and I recognize like my privilege in this, but they were all like very open, and very accepting of that, and like wanting to understand more. So I think maybe the only way that they treat me different now is by like having a better understanding, and like giving me more grace and more ease, and more compassion. But it hasn't been uh, any negative experiences for me as far as them treating me different. When did you become aware that you might be on the spectrum? So this was probably, I don't know, it was whenever Love on the Spectrum came out, like the first season of it. Um, like we had always like kind of joked that like I could be on the spectrum, not really knowing like exactly what it meant. And then when I watched the first season of Love on the Spectrum, I had so many like aha moments, and I was like, I've never seen myself, or like the way that I am, or like these little things about me that I never really understood. I've never seen this like portrayed in any sort of media that I've ever consumed before. And I was like, like I can relate to most of these things about all these people that they're showing on here. And I'm like, okay, maybe I could be autistic, but at the time I still didn't know exactly like what autism was, and that kind of led me down this rabbit hole of doing like all the online quizzes that there are. And then I was like, okay, it's looking more and more like I could be autistic. And that's when I finally decided to reach out to a neuropsychologist to be evaluated. So that was like, I don't know, probably like 4 years ago when I first started like thinking about it. yeah. What is something a newly diagnosed ASD1 adult should know? Um, I don't know. It's always hard for me to like give advice because I feel like everyone is different, and like who am I to give advice? I'm just another imperfect human. But if I can like relate it to myself when I was first diagnosed, I would tell myself like there's going to be a lot of like shadow work, I guess, where like there's like all these different like traumas from the past coming up, and all these different like clicks, like everything's going to start making sense, but it's also going to make the least sense that it ever has at the same time. And so with everything that comes from like this receiving this diagnosis as an adult, I wish I could just tell myself like, yes, this is going to be a challenging process, but like you're going to get through it, and like just try to give yourself as much grace as you can through this. Um, and it's going to be okay, and it's going to be better once this kind of all processes, and once you start this journey of learning these things about yourself that you always deserved to know. So that's what I would tell myself. Hopefully that's something that can resonate with you too. Describe your unmasked self in 3 words. This is interesting. My unmasked self, I would say, I've never really. It's always like these things where it's like put it into blank words or whatever. It's always hard for me. I would say passionate. Like I'm really passionate about the things that I'm interested in, and sometimes I feel like when I mask, I kind of have to dull these things a little bit, so I don't seem like too like crazy about them. So I'd say passionate, quiet, definitely quiet, and honestly, I would say like happy. Like when I'm able to be fully unmasked, which happens here at home, like I'm the happiest. I feel the most free. Um, like there's like a lot of freedom that comes with being able to be yourself. So I would describe it as those things. Help with transitions. Yeah, so I definitely struggle with transitions too, especially if I get like hyper focused on something. It can be so hard to like switch my brain from doing that thing to like even just like getting the not motivation, like the just like the power to like be able to switch from one thing to another can be really, really, really hard for me. The best thing that I found for myself is like creating systems in my life. And I don't know if this makes sense, so I'll use an example. Um, for me, like transitioning from like a calm, like working state where like maybe I'm working at my computer and then it's like time for me to go to the gym. That's like a big shift, a big energetic shift, and just like a lot of steps I have to do to get to that. And so I've almost like built a system and a routine um, for like transitioning from working to gym time. I will finish up my work. I'll check my emails one last time. I'll close my laptop, and then I'll make my pre-workout meal. Lately, it's been bagels and tofurkey because I don't know, it's been sounding really good. So I'll pop my bagel in the toaster. I'll make my pre-workout. I will make my post-workout shake where I just put my protein powder in a blender bottle and I just throw it in my bag. I'll finish making my meal, and then I'll eat that while watching YouTube or listening to a podcast or something. Then I'll go change my clothes and I'll head out. And by doing these like really simple, almost like mundane tasks, they kind of like build up, and it helps me get that like that energy to get going again. I've heard like the term autistic inertia, and I think that's a really good way of describing this. Like when I'm still and when I'm not doing much, it's like it's really easy to stay in that still state, hence inertia. And so like getting the momentum going with starting with like really small steps that eventually build up to me like actually getting to the gym and starting to exercise and stuff. That's just one example, and I feel like with like almost like every transition in my life, I have these like systems that I almost built like subconsciously, like even before I knew I was autistic, because like they helped me so much with those transitions. So that's like one thing I would say is to like try to create some sort of like routine or structure that you can follow. And by starting with like really, really small tasks that like kind of like build on each other to eventually get to that bigger task, that can be helpful. Um, um, what are some tips you have for someone just diagnosed as autistic? This is kind of like the question where someone asks, like, what would you, what a newly diagnosed autistic adult should know? I think the biggest thing is just like try to give yourself as much grace as you can through this process. And of course, it's so much easier said than done, especially considering like all the, like thinking back, like all the overwhelm I felt, the, it felt like I was almost like a new person existing, like trying to make sense of this whole new world that I didn't know existed. And it took a lot of energy and a lot of crying, a lot of like deep, heavy emotions, a lot of shutdowns, a lot of meltdowns. Um, and so just like trying to find grace for yourself as much as you can, meaning being gentle with yourself, understanding that your response is a natural response to this big news that you've been given and this big world change that you've been given. And just trying to find those ways to be as gentle with yourself as possible. Um, Trying to give yourself compassion, understanding that like this is temporary, and on the other side of this, you'll come out a lot stronger, and life will get easier from here. Um, how do you manage your autism and working? I struggle with working full time. Yeah, so I completely understand that, and that's why I knew like from high school that like not just that I wanted to, but that like I needed to be self-employed. I needed to find ways to support myself where I didn't have to show up for someone else. And this was before I knew that I was autistic, and looking back and be like, oh yeah, that's exactly why I knew I needed that, but I didn't have the words to describe it. And so for me, like with my work, I I cannot work like a full 8 hour day. I would literally go insane. I would probably end every single day in a meltdown or a shutdown, just because that is so much like brain power that I don't have, and so much like too many demands and all of that. For me, when it comes to working on my own, like I set it up in like a few hour. Oops, I just dropped my Ono roller. I set it up in a few like increments throughout the day. I'll usually do most of my work in the morning. That's when I have like the most creative energy. I feel like I have the ability to focus the best in the morning. And like being self-employed, I don't really have a set schedule, but like I like my routines, of course, and so I do that, and then I usually do a little bit more work in the afternoon, just to like break it up, to give myself a little bit of a break. But I wish I had better advice when it comes. Oh my gosh, I keep dropping my Ono roller. I wish I had like better advice when it comes to working as an autistic person, but like I'm the exact same way, and that's why I had to find like a way to make money on my own, as opposed to like having a job, because I knew like I could not do it. So yeah, I don't really have good advice with that because my situation is a little bit different, but I can absolutely relate. Here's one that is fitting considering I keep dropping this. Besides the Ono roller, what's your favorite STEM toy or tool? So this one's definitely my favorite. I also work with them and do monthly videos with them. This is the Ono roller. I love the heaviness of it. It's really grounding for me, and just like spinning in my hand is like really simple but really soothing. And actually, they just came out with these. These are called Signets, and they're like silicone coated magnets. And so I've been playing with these too. It's kind of fun to just like go like that, or like play with them on a table and like move them around like so yeah, these are really fun. I also like the Specs magnets. Those are fun too. They're not really as portable because they are like little magnets. I try to keep them over the table so that they don't like fall off and become a safety hazard for my dog. I like, I don't know what brand they are, but like the like balls that you squeeze and like one end like blows up a little bit. I don't know what those are called, but I like those too. And like honestly, I love just like the basic fidget spinners. Those are really fun, especially for like visual stimming, to like watch it in the corner of your eye as it goes really fast. I like those too. And then the things that you pop in and out, I like those. Yeah, I have a whole bin over by like my keys and stuff in the kitchen that is like full of different fidget toys. Maybe I should do like a tour of that sometime. That might be kind of cool. Mostly I like utilizing these, like any sort of fidget tool, when I feel like I have like excess energy, like, or if I'm watching TV, or if it's been a stressful day, or if I just feel like I need something to help me ground a little bit. I find that they're really helpful, and it keeps me from like picking at my nails, biting my lip, and maybe like the more like harmful stems as well. So yeah, I really like I like a lot of fidget tools and fidget toys. What's your best tip for being autistic and married? I got married recently too. I think something that I've learned in our relationship is that our relationship is going to look different a lot of the times than like a standard relationship that society has modeled. Just because like we have different needs, the way we communicate is different, the way we show love is different. And so I think just having that understanding, like it's okay if your relationship looks different than any other relationship that you've seen modeled to you thus far. Like for example, like our headphone nights, like it doesn't mean we don't love each other. It doesn't mean we don't want to be around each other. It just means that we had an overwhelming day, and it's for us to like recharge, where we need to have our headphones on and parallel play in that moment. And that happens at least once a week, sometimes more. And like, I think that is a really healthy thing for our relationship because it helps us like recharge. And yeah, just like understanding that it's going to look different, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like we have different brains. So what's your greatest source of autistic joy? I would say watching water and being in nature. Like I think I've said it before, like I could stare at water, like a river or a creek, or even like waves as they crash on shore and go back out. I could watch that for hours and hours and hours. It's so satisfying, and it just like the way the water, I don't know. I think that's probably my biggest source of autistic joy. interested in your knowledge about weather and how you got into it. Honestly, I don't know how we got into it. I have always loved weather, like snowstorms, thunderstorms, clouds. I think some of it has to do with like my interest in nature, but then I think just like I was thinking about this the other night because we had like a random thunderstorm that popped up, and I was like, what is it about these that make me so excited? I think it's there's like a sensory experience to it, like the way the clouds form and the way they build is like so beautiful, and then they get like really dark, and then just the sheer power of like the lightning, and then the loud thunder, and then the torrential downpour. I think that's probably why I'm so interested in it, just because it is like, it's exciting and it's like powerful, and it's just like really interesting, even from like a science perspective, like how weather forms and how it all works. I love like watching the radar during storms, and like learning about like what conditions certain storms need, and like how they form. Yeah, I love weather so much. um, Oh, I like this question because I can absolutely relate. Any advice for people struggling to accept their autism, plus feeling less than because of their capacity? This is something I've definitely dealt with and still deal with, even like after trying to like practice more self-love and going to therapy for a while to like release my shame. I think it is just part of the autistic experience. There's so many times where like I get frustrated because like I wish it was easier. I wish I could do this thing that seems so easy for everyone else. And then for me it's like incredibly challenging, and it feels like it shouldn't be this hard, but it is this hard. And then it's kind of like I start to feel like shameful about it and frustrated. Um, for me personally, the one of the biggest thing that's helped me, and I know that this isn't going to be helpful for everyone, but that has been doing like trauma-based therapy, specifically around like different moments in my life where I felt a lot of shame because of my challenges or because of my differences. And for me, I did EMDR therapy, which was so helpful. After doing that, it feels like I released like just this like heavy burden of shame I was just like dragging around with me everywhere I went. So if that's accessible and available to you, I would absolutely recommend at least like talking to a mental health professional and see what they think about that, and to see if they think it could be something that would be beneficial for you too. And I think like it's a common theme of what I'm saying today, but just like trying to give yourself as much grace as you can, and understanding that like you're not alone in these experiences of like feeling less than, or like having a hard time accepting your differences, or your disability, or whatever it is that you're having a hard time with. I think that like accepting that like it's okay to feel that is also really important, as opposed to like trying to just completely get rid of that. I think it's a natural and normal response to being an autistic person, especially in this society. And I think there's a lot of peace that comes with accepting how we feel, as opposed to like always trying to change how we feel. So like sit with that. Like it's okay to struggle to accept your autism, especially in this society. The reality is that the society that we live in makes it like 100 times harder to be an autistic person. And so I think that the way you feel is completely valid, and also understanding at the same time there's ways to work through some of that shame and ways to release that shame. But there's nothing wrong with feeling that shame. Oh my gosh, there are so many questions on here. I need to drink some water. I'll probably do a few more. Like I said, I'm going to keep talking until I'm tired of talking, so. Okay. Tips on lowering overstimulation. For me, it is one, accepting that I do get overstimulated really easily, and then two, using my tools to sort of like accommodate myself the best that I can, and even like preemptively stopping that overstimulation. So like when I go to the grocery store, putting in my earplugs before I even go into the store, versus like waiting until a loud sound or waiting until I start to get overstimulated. That's really helpful. And finding like what sensory tools are helpful for you too. It might be earplugs, it might be headphones, maybe like wearing very comfortable clothing that doesn't overstimulate you, utilizing various fidget tools like I mentioned, maybe wearing sunglasses if the lights are overstimulating for you. For me, like smells are also really overstimulating. So like making sure that on hand I always have like an essential oil that I can like just like put just a little bit under my nose there, and it usually will be able to block whatever that smell is. So yeah, for me, like preemptively tending to my sensory needs before it gets too late has been really helpful. And I think that for you, it's just kind of like finding what those things are that help you, as opposed to like what sensory tools aren't really helpful for you, and then taking those sensory tools that do help you with you wherever you go, and then like just reminding yourself to use them even if you don't feel overstimulated in that moment. Using them before you get overstimulated can be really helpful, and I found that it's helped me have just like more capacity in my day-to-day life, where I don't feel as drained, I don't feel as tired, I don't feel as overstimulated or as overwhelmed. How do you feel with potentially being misunderstood? Yeah, I am like always misunderstood. It happens all the time, and for a while it made me feel like really bad about myself. It made me feel alone, like I can't fit in, that I'll never be able to fit in. I'm kind of like going back to that shame thing that I touched on also. And then like something kind of clicked for me that like there's freedom in being misunderstood. The thing is that like when people perceive us, and this is like autistic or not, this is just like across the board, like when people perceive another person, most of the time how they're perceiving them is like based on their own beliefs, their own point of view, their own mindset, their own perspective on things. And most of the time it really has nothing to do with that other person. And so having that knowledge and understanding that makes it easier for me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna be misunderstood no matter what. Like I've been misunderstood my whole life. And for a while I tried to be understood, and that just led me feeling even worse. And so it's easier to be myself. It's easier to show up as myself. It requires less energy and less effort. And so I'm just gonna do that with the understanding that people are going to misunderstand me, whether I try to be understood or whether I try to be myself, and I might as well just be myself. But again, it's a lot easier said than done, and I think it comes with a lot of practice and just like being okay with like for me, a big thing is like in social settings, like I'm really awkward. I don't really know what to say. And for a while it did give me a lot of social anxiety because I didn't want to say the wrong thing or come across the wrong way. And now I'm just like, I'm embracing my awkwardness. Like, you know what, this is who I am. I'm just going to be awkward. It's going to be fine. They're going to judge either way. So like, who really cares? How was your unmasking process? I think for me, what helped me the most has been like learning about how autism affects me, and then understanding how I've tried to hide or like dull a lot of those things about myself, and then comparing how I am like at home versus how I am out in public or in social settings, and realizing like how different I can be when I'm at home, because like I said, like at home I'm free to be myself. I'm free to stim or like vocal stim, or I'm free to like just show up as I am in that moment, and trying to find those scenarios where I feel safe to be as I am at home in those other scenarios. And it just, again, this is a practice, and there might still be some, I know for me in my life, there are still some situations where I don't feel as comfortable or as safe being unmasked, and I still do mask a little bit, like to feel safe. And I think that that's okay too. So just like kind of figuring out like what it is that you've hidden or that you've masked, and finding ways that feel natural for you to unhide those things, and also understanding there might be some scenarios where it might not feel okay to do that, and that's okay too. Okay, I think I'll probably do like one or two more questions. Okay, how are you doing? I'm good. I have been feeling just so joyful with the changing of the seasons, with spring finally being here in like full force. The trees are finally green again. There's flowers everywhere. The days are warmer and longer and sunnier, and it's been putting me in a really good mood. So yeah, I'm good. Okay, and I'll end with this one because it relates to my special interest, and I want to answer this question. How do you not get overstimulated at the gym? That's actually like a good question, because I can definitely see how the gym can be overstimulating, and there still are definitely days where like I realize I'm not going to be able to go to the gym today just because of how overstimulated I feel already. But like for me, I use noise canceling headphones. I make sure that I wear comfortable clothing. Going to a gym that is less crowded, so like trying to avoid the like really busy commercial gyms, and trying to find a gym that has like darker lighting, which my gym covers all those things. And also like bringing either like a sweat towel, or like I really hate when like sweat is like dripping down my face, so like I'll usually like wear a hat or a bandana or something just to keep the sweat out of my face. But like for me, like the thing is, like I love exercise so much, and I get more sensory joy out of it than I do overstimulation. But like if the gym is something that like is unaccessible to you, or just like really overstimulating for you, there's so many other ways to get exercise in, whether it's like just working out at home, practicing like yoga, or like calisthenics, maybe being outside is better for you. So like maybe just like going to the park and using the bars for some exercises, like walking, playing sports, hiking, swimming. Like if the gym is not something that interests you, there's so many other things that you can try that might be more interesting and that might also be less overstimulating. But if the gym is something that you want to do, then those are some tips that I have. And I actually do have a video I made a few months ago on YouTube with like how to get started in the gym as an autistic person. So I definitely recommend checking that out too. So with that said, I got through a lot of the questions, but I didn't get through all of them. But we'll definitely do another one of these soon. Like I said, it's really fun to see like what specific questions you have, and like being able to answer them, because I can't always get to all comments and messages that I get, because that overwhelms me too. So yeah, if you don't follow me on Instagram, that's where I usually have these Q&A posts. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. And I just want to thank you for watching this video. Yeah, and I hope you have an amazing day.